Rees-Mogg is the shop steward of Tory Brexit-backing MPs. He chairs the ERG, the European Research Group, and joins us now. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
You tweeted yesterday that the future of the country and the Conservatives depends on Brexit, meaning Brexit. Under this deal, does Brexit still mean Brexit?
Well, I think this deal raises a number of questions. So far we've seen 3 pages out of 120, and we will have to find out what the details mean. For example, a common rule book. Now, on day one, that common rule book is the common rule book of the European Union, is the acquis communautaire as it applies to goods including agri-foods. How will that change? How will it become a joint rule book between the UK and the EU? There's the absolutely crucial point on due regard paid to EU case law as the UK courts interpret this agreement. What does that mean? What role does that give for the European Court of Justice? And then on the customs arrangement, if we're the tax collector for the EU, how are they going to regulate that? Will it bring OLAF in? Will it bring a new regulatory body into the UK, well, an existing regulatory body, and give it standing in the UK?
These are all important and interesting questions, but they're detailed ones. Only yesterday, or the day before, when the plan was leaked, you said this is not Brexit and the government should rip it up. Now, they haven't. They've endorsed it. So what's changed?
Hold on. What I said should be ripped up was a specific page that was reported saying that if we did this, we wouldn't be able to do a trade deal with the United States.
Well, do you believe that we would, under this, be able to do a deal with the United States?
But that is a page of the 120-page report that I haven't yet seen whether it's still there or not. So that's why I'm being slightly cautious. But to be absolutely clear, this will require legislation. And if when we get the detailed legislation, it turns out that it's a punishment Brexit, that it is keeping us in the European Union in all but name, I will stick to the Conservative Party's manifesto commitments and will not vote for it. So that's why we've got to wait and see what the detail says and whether this is Brexit meaning Brexit, in which case many people will be willing to go along with it, or whether in fact it means that we're losing the advantages of Brexit, not getting the freedoms that we were promised, and being tied in to an arrangement that means we're a rule taker.
Now, it's clear to me, Mr. Rees-Mogg, that you've significantly changed your tone over the space of a couple of days. Now, no doubt because all the cabinet Brexiteers have now signed up to a plan that they too condemned in private just 24 hours ago. Have you spoken to anybody who was at that cabinet meeting to discover what on earth went on?
No, I haven't had the opportunity to do that.
Do you think they were right to stay in the cabinet?
Well, I can't say whether they were right or not until I've seen the full detail of the papers. That's the issue, is that do the papers as a whole, the whole 120 pages of it, indicate a reasonable Brexit that commits to answers the Prime Minister's promises, or have the red lines been turned pink?
Well, let's look at one of your specifics, the Common Rule Book. The Common Rule Book, we don't need the detail. Do we know what the Common Rule Book means? What it means is effectively staying in the single market for goods. So people who are hoping, manufacturers who sell most of their goods outside the EU and might have been hoping for a different set of rules to allow them to compete with people in China, for example, will not be allowed to do it. They will have to stick to European rules. Does that mean Brexit means Brexit?
If your interpretation is correct, it would also make trade deals almost impossible because we would be applying those rules to goods coming into the UK. And in trade deals, non-tariff barriers are more important than tariff barriers. And we need to have the flexibility to accept equivalence of rules from other nations, that to say that other nations have standards that may be achieved differently but achieve the same end result. If your interpretation is correct, that is not something that when it comes to legislation I will vote for. I will stick to the Conservative Party's manifesto commitments, because this is where the advantages of Brexit come from, dealing with the 90% of growth that's coming from outside the European Union in future decades.
If every newspaper and every commentator is right that this represents what people often call a soft Brexit, in other words, something rather close to many of the arrangements we currently have with the EU, would you believe that such a deal was better or worse than no deal at all?
No deal is better than a bad deal. And the thing to remember,
but this deal,
if we put this
deal is what matters.
Well, we don't have all the details on this detail.
It is possible that this deal is worse than no deal, is it?
As with eggs, an egg that is very softly boiled isn't boiled at all. A very soft Brexit means we haven't left, we simply are a rule taker. That is not something that this country voted for. It's not what the Prime Minister promised. The Prime Minister will, I'm sure, stick to her word. That is crucially important, but I will certainly stick to the Conservatives' manifesto commitments and will not vote for something that doesn't deliver Brexit.
Jacob Rees-Mogg, thank you for joining us. Before 9, we'll hear what the government agreement could mean for business.